showtime.
It's showtime. And here we go.
Welcome into another edition of the Movie Geek Podcast. I'm your host, George T. And this week we are going to talk about Last of Us Season 2 finale and what this season came of and what may be a preview of Season 3. But we got a lot to discuss here. If you are a fan of the video game, you already knew what was to be expected. And so far, it has played out the way it is. When they said they were going to go with Season 3, it was questionable as to how they wanted to proceed this, because they could do it as the game, like Season 1, where they went through and played it out the way it was, with little extra details. But the second video game is so large, and there's multiple character play, that it was speculating that, well, okay, how do we want to do this, and so on. So now that we have our answer, now we have our finale, and unfortunately now we got to wait 2 years to find out what happens after a cliffhanger of all cliffhangers for those who never played the video game. For us who have played the video game, we know what the cliffhanger is all about, and we'll discuss that as we go along here. So, Last of Us Season 2 only has 7 episodes. Yep, 7. So that is very odd for a TV show. It's an odd number, and obviously. But normally shows go to 8. The Season 1 went to 9. So very peculiar choice for how many episodes you wanted to show in Season 2. We do not know what Season 3 is going to look like as far as the number of episodes. So we've got a lot of waiting to do. Like I said, we are now going to have to wait probably another 2 years before the end of Last of Us. So there is that. We have, obviously, coming into Season 2, we have Pedro Pascal as Joel. We have Bella Ramsey as Ellie. And we have now them with Joel's brother, Tommy. And, they're now going to try to live out their days in Wyoming. So where we pick up is into the future. And so Ellie and Joel are not getting along because Ellie now has grown up now. She was his surrogate daughter at the beginning, and now he's still treating her like a surrogate daughter. She does not want his help, and so we kind of get that right away. But we have also another player in this game. Her name is Abby, and she is played by Caitlin Dever. So, before I even go further, let's talk about Abby in general. Abby is a character that, in the game, you just want to hate. And we'll get to why that is in a moment. But we'll also show an arc to her that the show hasn't done yet, and it probably will do in Season 3. So we have this woman named Abby, who is trying to track down Joel. And the reason why is because he killed her father when he broke Ellie out of the Firefly hospital, killing a ton of fireflies. Abby was on a mission to find Joel. So 5 years have passed. So Abby, when she was cast, a lot of fans were a little upset. And the reason why is because she didn't look like Abby from the video game. Abby in the video game is a rough and tumble, muscular um, girl. And so Caitlin is a little bit more slender and more athletic looking, but her face really looks like Abby. So there is that similarity, but fans didn't like that. And again, fandom is fandom. We saw that with Captain Marvel when Brie Larson was hired as Captain Marvel. Fans were upset because she didn't look like the comic book Carol Danvers. Okay, but this again is not about how a person looks. Again, Abby, she looks very similar to Abby. If you wanted to have you wanted the fandom, um, to be, on your side, then maybe go and hire the actress who played Abby to play it. But you've got Caitlin, who, for all intents and purposes, in the little screen time that she has, plays her very well. So I will give her that, and I'll get into that a little bit more as we go along. So we see Catherine O'Hara in episode 1. She's a therapist, and she's trying to help Joel try to reconcile with Ellie, who again is now 18, 19, and does not want Joel's help. They had a fight, an argument over something, but we don't get to know that until later on. And then Isabella Merced plays Dina, who is a friend of Ellie, but really looks up to Joel. She's been learning the art of patrolling, but she has a little soft side for Ellie, and Ellie kind of has a little bit of of that, like, ooh, she's, maybe she's the next one, and so on. Obviously from the first show, we saw, she had to kill her girlfriend, who got bitten at the mall, and so now she's much older now, and now could finally maybe settle down, but she's also wanting to be out there and killing these clickers, and it's Ellie is very gung ho about this, and she's got a very edgy personality now, because again she's got a lot of built up anger and frustration about being saddled there, and instead of being able to go out and do a lot of things. And boy, does she do a lot of things. And we'll explore a little bit more in that in a sec. So she eventually, on at New Year's Eve, her and Dina are at this get together. Dina gives her a kiss, and one of the townsfolk gets really angry that they kissed, and then Joel steps in to defend Ellie, and Ellie's like, "I don't need your help, leave me alone," and you know they walk out together. The next day, actually that same night, Joel is sitting on his porch playing guitar. We do not see interaction between the two of them as she walks by. Obviously, she's not very happy about it. Okay, we get it. She's her own woman now, and she doesn't need a protector, or so she thought. So, the next episode, or right at the end of the first episode, we see Abby and her group finally be able to track down where Joel could be, and it is Jackson, Wyoming. So we get to the next episode, and again, if you have not seen this show, and I'm going to try to limit spoilers, but let's just say, for all intents and purposes, this is going to be a shock, even to the ones who have played the game. I played the game a couple times. The first time you play through it, it's like a gut shot. You're like, oh, did I really just see that? Did they really just do that? This episode is just as intense, and it is a gut punch of a different sort. We're gonna go into it as softly as I can here. So, Dina and Joel are going to protect a mill that they're trying to get some supplies from. But there is clicker activity out there. And in the town, some of the pipes now have the hive mind, as I'm calling it now, because it triggers the mushroom spores and triggers the brain, and like a hive, they all kind of run to it. So somebody taps into it, and then Abby is trying to figure out a way down to the town. She winds up slipping down the side of the mountain and comes across a bunch of frozen clickers, or so she thinks. As she gets up, the ground starts to break underneath her, and there is clickers running up through the snow. It's a crazy scene. As she escapes the herd coming down at her, there are so many of them. She's able to run into the mill area and get by a fence, which then collapses under the weight of the clickers running at full speed. She has to crawl through underneath and not get caught. She's rescued by Joel. Just so happens to be there where, to save Abby. So he saves her. He, Dina, and Abby take off out of the mill and head out. The problem is there's a crap load of clickers headed toward Jackson, their settlement, and Joel wants to go back, but it is so cold in the storm that just rolled in that caused Abby to fall down the mountain in the first place. She says, no, there's this. My camp is up in the old lodge up on the hill. Let's go warm up, and then I'll head back with my people and you, and we can try to, fight. Joel thinks it's a good idea because, again, they're freezing to death. And through this episode, they actually didn't pipe in any, snow or anything else. They were actually filming on a day when there was this gigantic snowstorm, blizzard type condition type thing. I give them all the credit in the world for being able to do this. So while the town is being attacked, Tommy is at the settlement, and he is trying to keep everybody as safe as he can. Where the video game didn't really divulge a lot about the attack. They just made us assume that they were attacking, but the writers took it upon themselves to add a little bit of extra where the town folk were feeling the weight of the attack and trying to keep the kids safe and so on. And again, you can take those kind of liberties with doing TV shows, whereas in the game you don't really do all that explanation, but you're trying to do it for the people who haven't played the video game. And we'll get into that as well, because there's a lot of people who didn't like the series because they were, as they say, slow burning, and they were, but we'll get to that in a minute. So Joel and Dina wind up going back to the lodge, and as soon as they get in, Abby finds out that it is Joel when Dina says Joel, and her mind quickly turns to, oh my god, I have him. I've got to kill him. And her friends are like, oh, this is a bad idea. Well, let's do this quick and let's get out of here. And so she grabs Dina first and tells Joel that if you don't want both of you to die, you're going to tell me everything you about the Firefly camp in Utah that you attacked. So, oh no, it was Seattle. I'm sorry. Oof. Okay, so backtrack there. But so she puts Dina, gives her a sedative, knocks her out, because now it is just Dina. Dina is knocked out. Now the friends were all like, we don't want to kill anybody else. You came here to kill Joel. Do it. And Abby's like, no, I'm going to take my time. And they're like, I don't like this. This is not a good idea. Let's just get it. Let's just kill him and go. And Abby's like, no, he's going to pay for what he did. And she starts interrogating him a little bit, shoots him in the knee. By this time, Ellie, who was out looking for Joel and Dina, stumble upon the cabin up top, because she knows if she goes back to the settlement without Joel, Joel could get lost out there or maybe die, and Dina as well, because again, she has a little thing for Dina. So the town is okay, many casualties and whatnot, but now we get to the really hard part about this, and we get to see carnage, really. And Abby, in the video game, we only see a couple of things where she hits Joel with a golf club, and then we're going through this through the eyes of Ellie, who gets knocked out, so we don't really get to know what else happens to Joel, other than when she wakes up, she finds him dead from, being bashed in the head. I won't spoil this for you, but Ellie does not get knocked out in this situation, but she has to watch Joel die. And for whatever reason, they leave Ellie to watch and then live. And of course, it's going to drive Ellie completely nuts at this point because she just watched Joel die. And I know that they had their issues toward the end or whatever, but Joel dying kind of flips another switch on her. Dina is now becoming her um, yin and yang kind of thing. Like Dina is all for Ellie, but at the same time she's trying to protect her because she cares about her so much. So uh, Ellie wants the town to vote on sending a group out and tracking back um, the trails that the Abby's group followed back and track her down and try to kill her. So again, this is very powerful the first time you play through it, where you know Joel was well liked from a gamer's perspective because he saved Ellie from fireflies killing her. However, he made that choice um, to save her instead of saving possibly humanity. Even though we don't know if that was going to work, and neither did he, but he made that choice. And he knew that his choices would have consequences, um, and unfortunately, the consequences came from Abby. So, right away, as you're playing the game, you automatically dislike Abby because she took out one of the two characters that you played through the first game. So obviously Ellie now is all about killing Abby, wanting revenge, and so on. But we shift now to Seattle and the trails along the way. We now have new groups. So we now get into a group of scars and a group of wolves. Now the wolves are a part of the old Fireflies, but now they are wolves. And Abby and Jeffrey Wright, who plays Isaac, are now their military force. So Abby now is surrounded by a military force. Um, the Scars are a religious kind of cult where they believe in a one supreme being, and that her love is is going to carry them through. They don't have a lot of weapons. They have bow and arrows, and I forgot what the other like hammers and stuff. Whereas they're taking on the military, guns, and just it's kind of a crazy dynamic. But these two rival groups now are fighting for obviously survival, and you know we start to understand that it's a bigger world out there, and Ellie is not going to be you know ready for it. So Dina decides to join Ellie because we knew once the council decided not to send anyone that Ellie was going to go out. Now, again, the game doesn't really do a whole lot of the council stuff, but again, they got to add some context for people who didn't play the video game, or they were just doing it for general audiences because they're trying to explain a little bit more of what is going on. So again, that's why I'm saying there's a lot of slow burn, because now we go from episode 3 to 6, where Ellie now runs into the Scars, and we see what the wolves have become, and the war between those two, and how Ellie and Dina now are kind of stuck in the middle of this while she is looking for Abby. Obviously, she and Dina get into a situation where Scars and Wolves are together, are fighting it out, but there are these very smart clickers now. Um, they are chased of um, out of the subway station because they're trying to get away from uh, the military when they're trapped in the little spinny gate. And right before Dina is bitten, Ellie sticks her arm out and she gets bitten. Dina is mortified at this point, and they seek cover in an old theater where Dina turns the gun at Ellie and says, "You've been bitten, I have to kill you." And Ellie's like, "No, you don't, let me explain." So now she finally is able to tell somebody other than Joel, because remember, Joel told her in season 1 and the game not to tell anybody about it because that would maybe um, strike fear, or may say, hey, you know what, maybe we should experiment on her, and he didn't want anything to happen to her. So Dina listens, and she's like, let me sleep through the night, and if I have any issues, then go ahead and shoot me. So the next morning she wakes up, Dina believes her. But this is where it also gets more complicated because now Dina starts giving her some feelings and tells her that she wants to be with her and that she's pregnant. Now, she's obviously not pregnant by Ellie, but by uh, Jesse, who she dated for a little while, played by young Mazzino. Uh, so Ellie's like, well, are you going to stay with Jesse? No, I want to stay with you. I want to keep the baby, and I want us to be a family. So now, where you go, I go. And she's like, no, I don't like this. I want you to go back to the camp because I want the baby to be safe. And she's like, I'm not leaving you. So they map out an area, or they map out some areas to go and explore. It doesn't go well. Um, and they are rescued by Jesse. And Ellie's like, where did you come from? And Jesse was like, well, Tommy and I decided because we knew you were not going to abide by the council rule that you were going to leave. So we followed the maps you guys left at your house. And Dina was like, probably should have brought them all. So now the four of them now are in Seattle, now having to try to plan their way out. However, Tommy takes initiative and starts instigating sniper fire from one of the roofs. This is now episode 7. So I skipped over a bunch because, again, it's to build the story, but again, I don't want to give a lot away. You guys should see it because it will lead into season 3 if you follow through 3 through 6. When you get to 7, the season finale, Ellie now hears over the radio that they know where Abby is. And now she wants to go out to this aquarium because that is the pier, is where they're having the gunfight between the Scars and the Wolves. And which is, again, kind of odd because the Wolves overpower them by just sheer force. So it's a little obscure, but the Scars are trying to survive, just like the Wolves are. And little did they know that Ellie was coming. You know what I mean? Like, they're not trying to protect Abby from her because this is, not something they would expect. And so Abby is off doing her thing. But she's also very important to Isaac and the wolves community because there was some questions about, well, she hasn't been around to fight. What has she been doing? And Isaac is like, she's doing what she needs to do for me, and so on. So there were questions around Isaac's leadership at that point. So Ellie takes one of the boats from the pier, and now in this violent thunderstorm decides to take this out into the water. She capsizes, winds up showing up on shore on Scar Island, as they're calling it. She runs into a little girl, Scar, who alerts the adults. The adults come and grab Ellie. They are about to hang her and sacrifice her, just like the Scars did with all the wolves that they have captured, when gunfire starts and she is released down and goes back to the end of the island, goes back into the boat, and heads out toward the aquarium. The aquarium, she gets to it finally, and she runs into two of the friends of Abby. She does not want to kill anyone, she just wants to kill Abby, so she asks, where is Abby? Abby was not there. So where is Abby? Well, they weren't going to give her up. Then she's like, well, then I'm going to have to kill you, or kill one of you, and then the other one's going to have to tell me. And they were like, no, we're not going to. And then finally, as she was doing the countdown, the male decides to, turn and quickly try to grab the gun that's under the table. He is shot through. She shoots him right through the throat. The bullet grazes or hits the female friend in the back, in the neck, behind the guy. Where this is another powerful kind of scene, because in the game it's even as shocking as well. But the female is pregnant. Now, in the game, we kind of just leave her there to kind of bleed out or whatever. The show takes the liberty of trying to, because Ellie is trying to save her, the girl asks for Ellie to cut the baby out. And I'm like, really? Like, no, we're not going to do this, are we? Like, damn. Obviously, Ellie is scared. She doesn't know what to do. She's like, what am I supposed to do? And eventually she passes out and dies. And Tommy and Jesse find Ellie and get her out of there. So, as we get to the end, Jesse and Ellie are talking, and Ellie was like, well, thank you for coming to find me. And Jesse's like, I know you would have done the same thing for me. And she's like, yeah, absolutely, I would. Even though he just spent, I think, an episode where he said she was selfish and only thought of herself. Then there's some commotion outside in the lobby area where Dina and Tommy were, and as soon as Jesse opens the door, he is shot in the face, and Ellie ducks for cover. It's Abby. She has found him. So Abby was only at the end of episode 1 and mostly in the episode 2, and now this. They have their verbal altercation, And then Abby turns the gun at Ellie and fires. And it goes black. Cliffhanger. Because for those who don't know if she survives or not, clearly she does. Like, sorry for this real spoiler alert, but obviously Ellie survives because the game would kind of end at that point if she was dead and Abby killed her. But as the show is about to end, we get to see Abby wake up, and the overlay says Seattle Day 1. They are in Seattle's football stadium, and there is agricultural and the army and everything else. There's um, families here or there. This is where they were staying. So now, what we are led to believe is now we are going to get to the part of the game where we are going to see Abby's story. So the one big problem that a lot of gamers had was that you had to play as Abby as well. So you had Abby shoot Joel and kill him, and now you were asked to play as Abby. And a lot of people didn't like that at first, because why am I going to want to play a killer? I don't know if I want to know her story. And Ellie is, still the good guy. But I want to say that the show makes Ellie to be more of a bad guy than Abby. And I want to see how season 3 is able to shift Abby as the main villain again. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll keep Abby as the anti-hero and Ellie become more of the villain, as um, as obviously she's killed more people out of revenge or out of love or anger. Whereas Abby, we don't really know what she's done other than kill Joel and obviously Jesse now, and maybe Tommy, and maybe Ellie. But again, we all know from watching, playing the game, that there would be no rest of the game without Ellie surviving, and obviously a huge confrontation in the end of the video game between Abby and Ellie. But we're not going to spoil that because we're going to wait till season 3 in 2 years. So again, there's just so much to unpack here. With only 7 episodes, it's kind of very conjuncted, but at the same time, it was slow burning. Because again, for the people that didn't play the video game and were invested in watching Last of Us, the writers took it upon themselves to overly explain the other groups, like the Scars or the Wolves, that Abby now is a part of, because the Fireflies are no more. So I think what's going to wind up happening in season 3 is they're going to do more of the same, but now from Abby's perspective. So we're not going to see a lot of Ellie early on and Tommy and the rest. So now we're going to have the switch over, and are fans going to be fans of the video game will stay with it, but the fan that doesn't know any better, will they stay with it? Because again, reading some stuff online, viewership was down. A lot of people not happy with this, not happy with that. Well, look, there's a lot of fandom out there. I get it. Every Marvel has it. Star Wars has it. Everything has a fandom, and you've got your good fandom and you got your bad fandom. it is what it is. I think for what this series was, and again, it was a shorter series than it should have been. It probably should have been at least one more episode, because you could have ran it out a little bit more, or gotten to Abby's first day story and a little bit more, so that you had a little bit more to go with. But I understood where they were coming from. I think this is a good show. A lot of people, again, not so much. They thought, it wasn't up to expectations. Again, it's very difficult. I'm gonna harpen on Until Dawn. A lot of people were not happy with Until Dawn, because it wasn't what they expected. Okay, but if you take your expectations out of it, what did you think of it? And again, that's the thing of it is if you've never if you've never played the video game, what was your expectations for season 2? I would love to know that. So comment below. But from a gamer side of it, were you expecting more? So that is the fundamental question of what you're expecting. I pretty much knew what this was going to entail, because again, I was very into Last of Us. So yes, for me, the slow burn just kind of extended out, the stories. But I also understood why they slow burned it, because they had to engage those people who didn't see the or didn't play the game, but they wanted to watch the show because it's a zombie kind of game. And then there are the other people that said, well, what happened to the clickers? Why are we not focused on the clickers? Well, because we didn't focus on that in the game. We focused on the human element, the wolves and the scars, the two, other groups out there besides Ellie and Tommy and the rest of the normal people, I guess. I don't know. Whatever you want to call them. But the scars are all messed up, and the wolves are the heavy firepower. So again, there's just so much in details that, like I said, I didn't want to really go over, but obviously you can't do a spoiler free, because you can't really tell the story of The Last of Us without Joel's signature death. And the writers took a really hard look at how they could make this more realistic and dramatic. And they knocked it out of the park. I did see the behind the scenes video that they did, vignette on the whole second episode. They read the script. Obviously, uh, they all knew that Joel was going to die, but when the writers wrote the script, it still hit everyone. Like, we're really going to do this, and you know, um, Pedro said that him knowing that his life was going to end this way was impactful, and Bella saying that when she read it that that he was going to die this way, she cried. So and Caitlin was talking about it, and she was like, Pedro was really really gracious about how working with me and trying to try to work it out. And the writers were all back there saying, man, we got to make this look good, but at the same time, it's going to affect all of us and how we go forward. So it is more violent than the video game gives away, and of course, that is for TV effect, and it sits with you. It really sits with you. So, what did you guys think of Last of Us Season 2? And unfortunately, again, we're not going to get to see Season 3 for another couple of years. So, yikes. And here's another one for you. Do you think Ellie is more of a bad guy than Abby is after seeing how this is all played out? Is Ellie now Abby and Abby is now Ellie? That's up to an interpretation. And again, playing the video game, you wanted Ellie to track down Abby and kill her. But then, Abby seems to be more on the normal business side and it isn't out there just randomly killing people like Ellie was. So, well, I do hope that you, like this video. Definitely hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Please comment down below as well. I would love to hear your take on The Last of Us. And again, I think waiting 2 more years for this to end may be a bad idea. Maybe Max might want to think about pulling this in, maybe make it into late next year instead of 2027. I don't know. Let's see how the fan fallout happens here. So with that being said, look for more of my review videos coming very shortly, and I will see you all at the movies.
You like that, baby? Let him know where I came from, yeah!
See you next time. Bye.
Waiting for you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's all, folks.